Hello YouTube, I'm Toby, and today I am taking on what is probably one of the most advanced projects I've attempted so far. This right here is a large black box, and we're going to build a computer in this using these particular parts. Now before we get into the build itself, let's introduce the parts. This right here is it's an old box used to carry smoke grenades for the Danish army. I had to paint it black, otherwise I couldn't take it home. Right here we have a glass panel that will go on the front, just so you can see the components inside the system. We have a Lenovo motherboard. This came from, I can't remember the exact model of the ThinkStation, but it's got a Pentium dual core and 4 GB of DDR2. Also have an I/O shield for it, not sure if I'm going to use that. Now this right here is a GPU. It's an NVIDIA 9800 built by ASUS, and I think this might get adequate power to make a decent system. We have an LED intake fan right here, a 6-pin SATA conversion cable and a power supply. We have a DVD drive and an SD card reader. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these, but it's nice just to have them for in case I want to use them. Back here we have a hard disk drive. It's mere 80 gigabytes, but it's fine for this build so far. I can always add another hard disk. And right here we have a lot of excess components. We have USB, audio, got some electronic components, LEDs. We also have the start button somewhere around here. I can't really find it right now. Got some shrink wrap, have some wiring, some screws, a drill. Got my tools, and since I will most likely need some to extend the wiring on the power supply, I've got a stripped down one right here that I can use for that. Now I managed to find my old drill and the batteries from an older place, but as it turns out the batteries were dead. I tried charging them, but they were completely, utterly dead. So I attempted to try and drill by hand, and this took too long and my hands were getting sore, so I decided this wasn't worth it. Instead I decided to improvise and a new battery connector for a lithium polymer battery used for airsoft, and try and connect it up to the drill just to see if it would work. And lo and behold, it actually worked, and I was able to do the drilling bit much faster. So far so good. I've pretty much completed all the holes I needed to drill. I have the hole for the window, the air intake, power button and indication LEDs, and the front USB header. And I'm not sure how well this picks up down here in the box itself, but in the back there is cutouts for the motherboard I/O, the graphics card I/O, and the back side of the power supply. So far the project is moving along, and right now I have to test out my LED lighting assembly and the fan just to make sure that it works before I install it in the system, and I may also soon enough install the motherboard itself, but probably not gonna get this project done today. I'm actually fearful of it that I won't be able to make it work, but I'm hoping for the best, and I'm hoping you are too, so fingers crossed. Alright. So it appears to work, ready to be assembled. Now things are steadily going forward. I've mounted the motherboard, the power switch and indication LEDs are mounted as well. The front USB and the intake fan is also mounted. I still need to mount the power supply and the hard disk, and of course I also need to make sure that everything is secure for transportation purposes in here. Let me just give you a look at the front right here. I'm not sure how well all this picks up. The lighting is pretty bad here, but as you can see, down at the bottom we have our USBs. Above we have the power button. Well, it's not exactly a button yet. I still need to do the actual button part. But the indication LEDs are there. The fan is right there. The hole for the window is still there. And I also need to do something about the back of this thing. Finally, after hours of work, I've managed to extend the ATX 24 volt connector, the 12 volt CPU connector, and the Molex connector. I'll play a video somewhere around the screen of me soldering and using the shrink wrap. But pretty much it just went wire by wire, extending it. I used the I have this right here, the donor power supply. Used the wires from that, and I hope this thing works and that I haven't screwed up some wires somewhere. But I have high hopes for this project, especially now that I had to improvise a drill and improvise a new power supply. The whole project is hopefully good to go. Now I know the lighting may not be the best for you right now, but I have the computer box, the screen, keyboard, mouse, power. Although the power cord is not plugged in, but we're gonna plug it in right now. So let's give it a shot. And the screen turned on, the computer turned on as well. And it turned off again. Alright, let's try and turn it on. I can't turn it on with this. Cool. Alright, would you look at that? Fan works, LEDs work, the indication works, the USB hub even seems to work. So we are in the BIOS right now. The CPU is the Pentium R dual core E5200 clocked at 2.5 gigahertz. And we have it's dual core, 4 gigabytes of memory. Let's go check the well, it does seem like the hard disk is detected as well. I am currently downloading a Windows 10 media tool, because from what I remember, the hard disk on this, the hard disk I used is running Windows 7 32-bit, and I see no real reason to use the 32-bit, so I figured why not download Windows 10 64-bit, since I can use all my benchmarking tools on the Windows 10. But all of that may actually just be tomorrow, because it's getting late, it's past midnight. Luckily it's my vacation time, so yay that. But may just be tomorrow. Right now I just need to relax a little bit. I'm actually still quite excited that this thing managed to work. It's a great experience. I was really afraid of poking around in that power supply and extending those cables, but so far, turns out, works quite well. So yeah, I'm patting myself on the back, and this is freaking awesome, man. Definitely one of the craziest projects I've undertaken for a while, and I'm excited for tomorrow to benchmark this machine. But before we switch to tomorrow, I just quickly wanted to show you what my dinner table looks like. Looks like a battlefield pretty much. Yeah, there's wires everywhere, hot glue everywhere, and there's a drill right there, but it's not gonna take too long to clean off. Just thought I'd show you what the aftermath looked like. Alright, so it is actually 1 AM and technically tomorrow. I got the Windows 10 USB stick done, so figured I might as well try and install Windows 10 tonight, and I actually might be able to benchmark this machine tonight. I simply cannot wait. I mean, the feeling I have right now is kind of the feeling that I had when I fixed the G5, well, the iMac G5. It's a unbelievable feeling. I did not exactly expect this thing to work on the first try, and it's freaking awesome, man. I can't really describe the feeling. It's great. So it turns out we have some issues. It may seem that the hard disk is at fault. So my plan right now is to go to bed and maybe switch out the hard disk tomorrow morning. I don't think this thing's gonna work, so it might be a good idea to try something else. So this is the view that greeted me now that it's the next morning. It's a beautiful sight to wake up to in the morning, I have to say. Now Windows 10 still does not seem to want to work, but there was an issue in the BIOS with the plug and play. Yeah, it was set to plug and play OS, so I disabled that. And when I tried to boot up the system just from the hard disk, it booted into, well, it tried to boot into Windows 7 32-bit, but it was unable to repair since this hard disk comes from an entirely different system. So I can't get Windows 10 to work, so I'm gonna try Ubuntu. At last we see some progress. I got the Ubuntu 17.4 working. Now I actually don't think there's anything wrong with the system in here. I think it's actually this USB drive here. I've been using it for a long time and it's probably getting too old. I mean, I've noticed it slowing down, so it may be at the end of its life cycle, but that may explain why the whole processes seem to, well, stall every now and then. Also the processor is old, the hard disk is old. Could be pretty much everything, but I mainly suspect the USB drive. Alright, so I finally managed to get Windows 10 working on this system. Turns out that all I needed was a lot of patience. So once I had finally gotten all the drivers installed, I decided to benchmark the system. I started with Cinebench. Cinebench ran alright. It ended with a score of 127, which is pretty much what I expected. I mean, the Pentium processor in here is very old and it's just a dual core, so not much to be surprised about there. I then went on to perform the Firmark preset 720p test. It ran well, but there's a little bump every now and then, and it seemed to slow down as the graphics card was heating up, and we ended with a score of 859 points. The last test I decided to run was Resident Evil 6 benchmarking tool. Now I set all these settings to as low as they could go, and in the beginning it seemed to run fine, but in more demanding scenes the frame rate would just simply drop right out of the sky. We ended with a score of 3,736, which is more or less playable on this system. Alright YouTube, so that was my little crazy project right here. So I really hope you enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed building this thing. I mean, it was a good use of my time actually. But thank you very much for watching and have a very nice day.